The Vietnam economy is set for a period of outperformance, I believe.
Outperformance?
Outperformance compared with other countries in the region. And it's partly what I outlined earlier regarding the foundations having been set for that growth. We have a new government in place that's really wanting to drive that growth, and to see that realized fills me with great excitement.
Hello and welcome to another episode of TRG Talk Digital. I'm your host, Rick Ivanovic, and today with me is Neil MacGregor. He's the Managing Director of Savills here in Vietnam. Hello, Neil.
Hello, Rick.
Okay, so Managing Director. Hey, you look like a very young chappie to me. How did you actually get started in this role?
So I arrived in Vietnam in 2001, and I had started my career in London. I came on the request or invite of a friend in Hanoi, and through that I met somebody in the real estate industry who offered me the opportunity to come to Vietnam to a position in Ho Chi Minh City, to a company at the time that had 25 people. And I took equity in that, built up the company with them. We sold that company to Savills in 2008. And my partners of the time decided to go off to other parts of the world and continue their career elsewhere. And I became managing director in 2012. So I've run the company here as managing director since 2012, now 13 years. Wow, time flies. But it's been great fun, great adventure, and we're very proud of the business we've built.
Wow, sounds amazing. So why do you do what you do?
I love real estate because you can touch and feel what we work with. We're not purely dealing in bits of paper. It's a physical asset that you can see every day. Our property managers work at those properties. They see and feel what they're working with, what we're buying and selling on behalf of clients. We can see and feel those assets. And that's what I like about it. The other aspect, which is perhaps unique to my role here in Vietnam, is that we're dealing with every asset class within real estate. So I might be meeting an office developer one moment. I might be introducing somebody who's looking for a warehouse in the next meeting. And then I might be meeting somebody who's developing an integrated resort with a casino in the next meeting. So it's a huge variety of different properties that we deal with, particularly here in Vietnam, and that makes it really exciting and special.
Is that something unique in the industry to really have that exposure?
You tend to get pigeonholed in more developed markets. And I remember distinctly being on a beach in Da Nang doing a inspection of a resort property there. And maybe perhaps a little bit antagonistic, sent it to a friend who worked in the industrial sector along the M25 in London, and said, do you like my new role in Vietnam? So yeah, we're a little bit spoiled here in the variety and the wonderful properties we get to work with here in Vietnam.
Well, did you realize that was going to happen when you embarked on your journey some decades ago?
Not necessarily, no. I came here to a role where I was finding office space for tenants, and that's how I set out on my journey in Vietnam. But it's transpired that there's a lot more going on in the property industry in Vietnam than just offices.
Now, you said, you do what you do because you like touching and feeling, the sort of product that you're selling. But what do you like best about what you actually do?
The people side is very important. We have 3,000 employees now in Vietnam. we've probably, over the time I've been in Vietnam, had as many as 5,000 people come through the business. And we see ourselves, in fact, we have a reputation or a bit of a nickname as being the university for real estate in Vietnam. We have fantastic alumni events now, where we get people from all cross sections of the industry that have worked for us coming back and celebrating their careers that they've gone on to pursue in Vietnam. And I think being able to see the energy that Vietnamese bring to the workplace and the fact that we're able to encourage that in the work environment we can offer and see people really develop their careers is something very special. And I think something in the right environment you can really nurture in Vietnam that may not be the case all over the world.
Now you mentioned that, it was, I think you said it was 2008 that you sold your first real estate company here. And you're only a couple of dozen people, yeah?
Yeah.
And now you're saying you're 3,000 after Savills bought you over. Was Savills already in Vietnam, or did they come in through you, as it were?
They came in through us, and their philosophy is to wholly own businesses. So they were looking for a business to acquire that had a presence and that they felt had scalability.
I mean, a presence of 25 is a bit different to 3,000. So what happened?
We're a little bit unusual in having so many employees here. It's not typical of businesses of our nature all over the region. The reason we have so many people today is because our property management business specifically grew very rapidly. And that's where the majority of the employees are. But yeah, at the time when I arrived in 2001, at least there was 25 people. When Savills bought the business, I'm guessing we were maybe about 80, something like that.
Yeah, but did you have any idea it was going to get this big?
No, not at that time. No, but Vietnam's been a huge success story. Economic growth has been so strong. We've been part of a growth strategy for Savills throughout Asia, and we were one part of that. We've thrived in that slightly more entrepreneurial mindset that Savills have in terms of growing the business than some of our larger, particularly US competitors. So I think Savills have thrived in the Vietnam market, whereas others have maybe been a little bit restrained in what they can do and haven't seen the full benefits of that growth economy that we've seen here.
Well, you've been here now for more than a couple of decades. You mentioned that you cover all asset classes, and you've seen the roller coaster ride of presumably all those classes and the rapid growth of Vietnam. When you sort of reflect on all of that and everything that's going on in the market here, what trends are you seeing?
So currently, there are two sectors that really stand out as growth opportunities in Vietnam. The tourism story is enormous here. We have a huge coastline, fantastic culture, great food. And there's been a lot of infrastructure built around tourism. Still some challenges around visas and other aspects, but tourism is an area that's grown significantly in the time I've been here. And Vietnam's right up there on many international visitor lists now. The other aspect is the industrial real estate sector. Manufacturing is the key driver behind the Vietnam economy. And in the last, I would say really since COVID, the industrial real estate sector has taken off. And Vietnam's moved up the value chain. We have higher tech manufacturing here now. It's not all about the low-cost labor, although that is still important as well. And institutional investors have moved into that industrial real estate sector. So they're developing warehouses for lease, factories for lease, which was not the case previously. It was simply about building an industrial estate, an industrial park, selling off the land with the infrastructure in place. But we now have that more institutional industrial market as well. So those two sectors, tourism related real estate, hotels and resorts, and the industrial sector would stand out for me at this point in time.
And with tourism, I mean, what type of developments are happening? Are they, sort of budget 1-star, 2-star, or are they super luxury or something else? You're mentioning casinos.
we have everything from the most very basic hotels, backpacker type hotels, but also those more basic hotels servicing the domestic tourism growth, which is actually where the highest growth currently is. Domestic tourism is growing faster than international tourism in Vietnam. But we have some of the best luxury resorts in the region as well. I was very lucky during COVID to have the opportunity to visit some of those at that time that I wouldn't otherwise go to. But we have beautiful luxury resorts as well, barefoot luxury. And yeah, we have offerings for every taste, I would say, in the tourism sector.
You mentioned that the domestic tourism market is growing even faster than the international one. How fast is fast anyway?
Through COVID, coming out the other side of COVID, we were seeing 20% per annum growth. It's maybe dropped back since. But it's certainly double-digit growth that we've seen in the domestic sector, and that's the growing middle class here. People are traveling more. People are wanting to see their own country. We are a long, thin country, and people from the north want to see the south, and vice versa. People in the countryside want to go to the cities, vice versa. So that's creating tremendous growth at the moment. We have homestays throughout the country now, which didn't even exist pre-COVID. Wow. But beautiful homestays that people have set up to cater largely to that domestic tourism.
And how does that growth sort of compare against, other destinations around the region? Is growth in Vietnam, even in tourism, faster than elsewhere?
There's no other country that's grown as fast over that period. We're still some way behind Thailand in terms of total volumes. Recently, Malaysia has attracted a lot of attention. Philippines is still some way behind in terms of its growth, but great potential there. So Vietnam, during the last decade, has seen the strongest growth in Southeast Asia.
Now, you mentioned the other sort of rapidly growing sector is the industrial sector, manufacturing sector. And you said it's the shift more away from the, manufacturers, which are very labor intensive, to something more high tech. Could you expand a bit more about that?
So the big names that people would be familiar with are the likes of Samsung. Samsung have invested $22 billion in Vietnam now.
That's a significant
sum of money. I don't know exactly where Vietnam places in their overall manufacturing globally, but they are a big contributor. Also from South Korea, the likes of LG. And then you've got Apple manufacturers such as Foxconn now in the market. Intel have been here for some time now, well over a decade. They are assembling chips here. And the Vietnam government's made it very clear that they want to be part of this tech race that's going on globally now. They are looking to invest into education around tech, invest into encouraging more high-tech manufacturing here, looking at the AI sector, the chips to fuel that growth. And there's data centers which haven't even taken off here yet. Elsewhere in the region, from a real estate perspective, data centers have been a really hot topic, and that's still to happen here in Vietnam. Very capital intensive.
Yeah, I heard recently, wasn't Nvidia coming here?
I think they have been flagged as one of the high tech companies.
Now you mentioned data centers. What's are you predicting that some of these big data centers are going to start appearing here and wanting to come to Vietnam?
So Vietnam will crack in terms of the data center market. The need is there, whether it's the big hyperscale users, your Microsoft, Netflix, Google's, etc. They now are required to keep their data onshore, so in theory they will need data centers in Vietnam. The growth of banks, for example, in terms of domestic users that will require data centers going forward. Now, the government's given some of the local players a bit of a head start, and there are a number of local players building out data centers, but I think we'll see foreign capital entering over the next couple of years.
Now, 2 decades, growing from like 24 people to thousands of people. I'm assuming it wasn't a linear growth. There might have been, I know I'm making some assumptions here, that there might have been a few ripples on the way. So what were some of the obstacles that you faced on this journey?
Yeah. So we are a full service business, and that's been our strategy throughout. Because there will be some service lines or departments that have a slower period and others that will have a faster period. So although all of our service lines are in the real estate sector, they're not all growing in a linear fashion. It's incredibly difficult to grow property management at the speed at which we have done over the last decade. We've gone from less than 50 properties to 130 properties just in the last 5 or 6 years. So that kind of growth requires a huge amount of recruitment, training, and bringing technology into the platform as well, and bringing all of that together to allow for the growth definitely had its challenges. We've had hiccups along the way, but I think it goes to our entrepreneurial mindset that we have not let failures hold us back, and that we've moved on and pivoted or reconsidered what we were doing and made it better.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, is it just an entrepreneurial mindset that is driving all this growth forward?
I think that there's a desire to always project a best-in-class service as well. We believe that across our service lines, we offer the best available services in Vietnam. We strive to be international standard across all of those services as well. So I think that desire is at the heart of it. It's not always to be the biggest, but there is a desire to try and be the best. And I think if you're trying to offer the best services possible in a growth market like Vietnam, the growth will follow, the opportunities will follow. You can't say that about every economy, but we are fortunate, I think, that if you strive to offer the best you can in this economy with the growth as strong as it is, then that growth will come to you.
Does innovation play any part in any of this?
So we developed for that property management platform, which is now the biggest part in terms of numbers of employees. We built a software system, having trialed a third-party system, which wasn't right for the Vietnam market. Our teams couldn't get what they wanted from it. So we made the decision to develop our own software here in Vietnam. Brought in our own development team, quite unusual for a real estate company, but Vietnam can present these type of opportunities. And we built that from scratch. About a decade ago now, we started that journey. And we're very proud of what's become known as Property Cube, which provides a backbone for our own teams and a front of house for our residents, for our tenants in the buildings that we operate. That has been so successful. That software has now been rolled out in Hong Kong, Singapore, Thailand, elsewhere in the region, and is now Savills' go-to property management software for the Asia Pacific. So that's a great example of, with that entrepreneurial spirit, an innovative mindset, particularly in Vietnam. There's huge opportunity.
What's the most important lesson you've learned being a business owner? Okay, and you're like a business owner here. You're the managing director. I know you may not be the 100% shareholder anymore, but presumably you run it like your own business.
Yeah. Operating in an emerging market like Vietnam comes with risks. And you have to be acutely aware at all times of what those risks might be. Those risks might not be here today, but they can appear tomorrow. We're in a country where the regulatory environment can change from 1 month or even week to the next. And that can mean that the way we operate our business can require change in quite short periods of time. That's just one example of an emerging market where risks can present themselves on a much more regular basis, I think, than elsewhere. So a mindset that allows for the management of risk, an awareness amongst the team, ensuring that you have the infrastructure, and I mean the human infrastructure, the team infrastructure in place to be able to manage that risk is very important.
I mean, how do you manage and grow a team that big?
So one of the biggest changes I made when I became managing director was to very quickly shift all of our departments to their own P&Ls. And that was instrumental in driving the growth. Suddenly I had 10 business leaders, 10 business owners wanting to drive the success of their own businesses under the Savills Vietnam business framework. And that was highly successul. We were very lucky to find some great leaders for those business lines who are very proud of those businesses that they've developed, some of whom have now been with us for 15 years or more, and are the market leaders in their field. So that was one thing that I think was instrumental to driving the growth.
What's one piece of advice you give to someone sort of starting out in their real estate career and looking at you and saying, "Ooh, I want to be like him"?
So first of all, look for an area that would excite you, that you would like to get experience in. So for some people, they may have more of a sales mindset. Go out there and try and sell some apartments and get out there and gain that experience. For others, they might want to look at more of a hospitality angle. That might be moving into tourism-related real estate. It might be working in property management or the hotel space, hotel management space itself. So I think go out there and get experience. Once you've identified what you like, then look at some further education. And there are lots of real estate courses out there. It might be valuation, it might be more of a finance investment angle, or it might be more of a hospitality angle. But I think go out there and explore the industry, find out what gets you excited, and then make a decision about what further education in a specialist area you might look at.
You talk about further education, but earlier you said that Savills is seen as like the real estate university.
But I think that goes to the experience aspect, and yeah, I think we have people that thrive in our environment, but many do go on and do further study. Our professional body globally is the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors. Some go on to get that qualification. Others want to specialize more, might be in finance, might be the hospitality angle. And that may come after a few years of entering the industry, or it may take a decade for them to really know what they want to do.
Okay, I mean, you mentioned RICS. I mean, that's UK based, yeah?
Yeah.
So you have to go to the UK to study, or you can study it here?
No, you can study from Vietnam. There are a number of platforms enabling that. Oxford Brookes University have been instrumental in facilitating that. They have a fast track program working towards becoming a member of RICS. Yeah. We have across the industry here, there's quite a community who have gone down that route very successfully.
Cool. So what makes you feel inspired to be your best self?
It goes back to delivering what we regard as the best services. I would rather walk away from potential work than take it on if I didn't feel that we were in a position to deliver the best service available, or our client wasn't in a position to be able to accept the advice that we might be able to provide. We've always thrived when we've taken on work where we can deliver the best quality available in the market. And I think sticking by that principle, not just chasing volume, not just chasing the money, but ensuring that you can deliver a quality product, helps me be my best self, but I think helps the whole team thrive as well.
So what does success mean to you?
You've got to be happy in what you do. If reward can come with that, that's wonderful. But you've got to enjoy what you do, and maybe not every day. Vietnam's famous for offering good weeks and bad weeks, good days and bad days. But you've got to overall enjoy what you do. And I think real estate is one industry that can really bring that out in people. And I've seen people really thrive in real estate in Vietnam because it is such a vibrant market here. Others didn't like Vietnam. I'm talking about expats here, and left the country. But those that stay tend to really enjoy it. And I think that represents success. If you can look back and say, I really enjoyed building that business, or I really enjoyed that period of developing my career, then that's got to be a sign of success.
Okay, so I have to ask the question. Do you feel that you're successful?
I am very happy here in Vietnam. I enjoy going to work still after 23 years every day. Um, I'm very proud, naturally, of the business we've built and the team that we have in place. We had our end of year dinner with our management team last night, and it's really inspiring to see those individuals around the table. All of them market leaders in the services that they provide here in Vietnam. So yeah, I hope that represents a degree of success.
Well, the success is how you see it,
Yeah.
not how I or anyone one else sees it. So, to what or to whom do you attribute your success?
It's a good question. I don't believe I would have thrived in a managing director type role in the UK same way that I have done in Vietnam. So his name was Alistair Ewing, who I met in Sapa over a cold beer, looking down the valley, having just got off a motorbike. I attribute a lot of where I am today to Ali offering me that opportunity, and once I got to Vietnam, inspiring me about the real estate industry here in Vietnam. I don't think I would be here today, having had the success that I've had, if he'd not brought me to Vietnam and inspired me about Vietnam in those early days.
What do you think triggered him to bring you here in the first place?
I think he needed somebody, and Vietnam probably wasn't as attractive a place to move to at the time, and he probably needed somebody quite cheaply at the time. But I think he could see that I had an adventurous spirit. I'd had a year out between school and university, which gave me that travel bug. And I think he could see somebody that might fit in. Of course, I came like most expats for a 2 or 3 year period. That was the plan. But I've ended up here 23 years. So yeah, I think partly a need on his part, but perhaps he saw somebody who might thrive in this environment.
Has there been anyone else in your life who's been a sort of considerable influence to you?
I think my wife has been there for me through challenging times, and I think if there's one word of advice I would provide people is, if you can find a pillar that you can go to who can provide support through more challenging times, and support you with difficult decisions. For me, an example would be, I saw a need to do some further study. I looked out at executive MBAs, incredibly expensive, and I needed the support of my wife, and she was there throughout, from the financial decision, from the time away from family, and encouraged me to see that through to its completion. So that kind of support, I think, can be invaluable as well.
And if you don't mind me asking, do you happen to meet your wife in this country?
She is Vietnamese, yes. A strong northern Vietnamese lady. And much of my management team is made up of the same characters. So yeah, Vietnamese women, I think, are wonderful, hardworking, and we've been lucky in our business, and I've been lucky to have a wife from that strong Vietnamese background. Yeah.
Now, you work a lot, I assume, to have built a company up to its huge size that it is. literally from scratch. What do you do when you're not working? Do you have any hobbies or anything?
So here in Vietnam, I cycle a lot. There is a rapidly growing cycling community here in Vietnam, both Vietnamese and expats. I live in District 7 and we have a great group that we go out most weekends into the countryside, and that for me is a way to switch off, get away from the city, enjoy greenery, paddy fields, mangrove forests, and I thoroughly enjoy that. Tomorrow night I'm flying to the Alps to go skiing, which is my other passion.
Wonderful.
I'm a secret ski instructor. That was my plan B in life. If real estate went wrong, I'd end up on the slopes. So I'm very passionate about skiing, and my 3 boys now enjoy that passion as well. Expensive though it may be.
No skiing here in Vietnam?
Unfortunately not, no. Maybe one day. They've just opened a new indoor slope in Shanghai, so maybe that will appear in Vietnam.
So
a real estate angle.
They've got nearly everything else here in Vietnam, but not the ski slope yet.
Not yet. Watch this space.
All right. Now, earlier you were talking about some of the faster growth industries. I forgot to ask you, because you were explaining some of the trends with hospitality and manufacturing and things. What's your vision for the future?
I think about this a huge amount, and it's partly a reflection of the journey that Vietnam's been on to this point and where it might go in the future. I really feel that we are at a bit of a juncture where Vietnam has set the foundations now. Taking real estate as an example, just last year we had a new land law, we had a new housing law, we had a new brokerage law, all come out within 12 months of each other, providing a framework for a real estate industry that can really now thrive in Vietnam after a very challenging period, which we'll maybe not go into in detail, but I think Vietnam is now in a position where it can push towards middle income status and beyond, and reap the rewards of the hard work of the last 3 decades as Vietnam's transitioned to more of a market economy. And at least the new government that we have in place through the media are projecting a growth story, which would allude to that. So I think we're in a very good place, and I'm very positive about the future of Vietnam.
Cool. Now, would you like to share with us some of your life values?
Life values. So I have mentioned it, I think, twice already, maybe. I will mention it a third time. But I think it's very important to try and deliver the best you can at all times, whether that's in your personal life or whether it's in your professional life. Be the best you can be, and I think that will help others around you, not just yourself as well. So I think for me, to try and be the best you can be at all times.
Okay.
Yeah.
And let's change tact a little bit. What makes you smile? Apart from some of my questions.
I love the adrenaline rush of flying down a ski slope. I love being out in the countryside on my bike. I I think enjoying the nature around me really brings a smile, and I feel at peace and brings out that happiness in me. Seeing my children on a basketball court, enjoying that brings a huge smile to my face. I have 3 boys that are extremely passionate about basketball. They haven't quite realized that the height genes are not on their side yet, but it makes me smile every time I see them on court at the moment and see them enjoying that sport. So yeah, I think seeing family happy brings a great smile to my face.
Wonderful, wonderful. If you could have one superpower, what would you want it to be?
If I had one superpower, well, I think Vietnam is building a new airport with no roads to get there, it seems. So maybe if I can fly, that might help with that. Maybe going back to the nature loving aspect, to be able to fly and see the earth around me.
You mentioned the new airport. Tell us a bit more about that.
So it's now well under construction, due to open in 2026. It will be the largest airport in Vietnam. And I think there's a huge amount of excitement as to what it will bring for the economy. We've got a coastline there from Vung Tau to Phan Thiet, which is set to reap the rewards of all of the potential international visitors, the link with the north, bringing domestic tourism to that coastline. So it's going to offer huge potential for that coastline as well as the economy of the south of Vietnam as a whole. So a great move to develop that new airport.
So for the sake of our listeners who may not know, where is this airport?
It's to the east of the city, about 40 kilometers to the east of Ho Chi Minh City, towards the East Sea.
Okay. And you sort of jokingly said there are no roads. Was that a joke?
We're all scratching our heads a little bit. There is one key highway linking to that side of the city at the moment. There are ring roads being built, which are going to help other aspects of the city, going to be great for the real estate industry, but not necessarily provide a good connection from the city centre to the airport. And I think more work needs to be done there.
I heard that isn't there a new metro? Doesn't that go down to this new airport?
Unfortunately, not in that direction, no. But maybe there'll be a high-speed link to come.
But this metro is this a new thing, right?
The metro is now open. I think we're 2 days into people actually buying tickets after the first month being free of charge. Hugely popular by the number of people taking the metro. One of my colleagues had taken it from the Tao Dien area into the centre of the city for a dinner that we were at last night. So yeah, I think it's serving a purpose, but it is one line.
Okay.
More required to provide a fully integrated transport network.
But it's a start.
It's a start. And it's going well, so hopefully it will encourage more.
You said it's hugely popular. Do you think that's because there's people who use it because it's a real need, or they're curious and just giving it a go?
I think there's a bit of both. The curiosity is definitely there. When you are only servicing one direction within the city, it's difficult to generate huge amounts of genuine user traffic. But once more lines come and there's more integration, that need will be there.
Okay. Now, again, 2 decades in this wonderful country. You are throwing the odd curveball or two just from time to time. Do you have any pet peeves?
I think what would be the thing that gets me the most? I mean, the immigration is a headache at the moment. We are in this transition, I suppose, to the new airport, but waiting for an hour, sometimes longer, at immigration frustrates a lot of people. I'm not an APEC card holder. It does annoy me when somebody says they have an APEC card and they can go the fast track route. So that definitely annoys me sometimes. I think recruitment and talent in general has been something that's been a challenge at times, particularly during our periods of more rapid growth in our business. So it would be nice to see a deeper pool of talent here in Vietnam. And that's something we work very hard at to try and play our part in building that talent.
The university.
But it's something that is definitely required in the real estate industry.
The immigration, I know it's a bit hit and miss. I mean, I just flew into Ho Chi Minh City the other day, and it was like 10 days ago, and I was preparing myself. Okay, I'm going to be queuing up for hours. And I turned up, and literally I was in a taxi within 30 minutes of landing.
I mean, we have been spoiled that we've had this airport that's been so close to the city centre, and that's been wonderful. And I understand that airport will remain, maybe as a domestic, purely domestic airport. But we have been lucky that it's been so close to the city centre.
Yeah, I mean, getting from the airport to the city centre is like, to me, it's like half an hour.
Yeah.
But even getting through immigration, touch wood, I'd say in the last, going in and out of Vietnam now for 34 years, 35 years this year. And it's less than a handful where it's taken me an inordinate time to get through immigration. And I do not have an appetite card. I do not have a fast card. Yeah. I queue with everyone else. All right. What are you most excited about now? What's giving you hope?
The Vietnam economy is set for a period of outperformance, I believe.
Outperformance?
Outperformance compared with other countries in the region. And it's partly what I outlined earlier regarding the foundations having been set for that growth. We have a new government in place that's really wanting to drive that growth, and to see that realized fills me with great excitement. Hopefully it will allow us to continue to grow our business. I think it will be great for the Vietnamese people. The various real estate sectors will thrive off the investment into infrastructure that's going to take place. So I have great excitement around that potential and being able to see it realized.
Now you said, outperform its current growth. I mean, over the decades, especially over the last few years, Vietnam's been growing 5%, 6%, 6.5%, nearly 7%. So you implying it's going to grow even more, even faster?
I'm not saying outperform its previous growth necessarily. What I'm saying is it will outperform relative to other economies in the region. I think we're at that juncture, and it may be. I mean, the government's looking at 7% plus. That has been the higher end of GDP growth over the last decade, but with the right investment into infrastructure and other areas, that's certainly achievable.
If I could grant you 3 wishes, what would they be?
3 wishes. First of all, for my children to thrive. That would be the first one. The family aspect. For me to be able to continue in Vietnam and continue to enjoy my life here in Vietnam. Third wish, that it snows in Switzerland in the next week so that we get some good skiing.
I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will. Okay. Can you tell us something about yourself that most people don't actually know?
Uh-huh. Well, I have mentioned it already, but I did always have that plan B as a ski instructor. That was something that most people probably don't know here in Vietnam, given the lack of skiing. I think in a managing director role, you're often perceived as more of an extrovert type character. I am not. I'm definitely more introverted than extroverted. It's interesting how when you're in a senior role, how the perceptions can be different to the reality.
That's really interesting. I think, we started this podcast journey about 18 months ago. And I have a feeling this is maybe number 17.
Mm-hmm.
And really surprisingly, literally every single person that I have interviewed is an introvert.
Right.
And I had absolutely no idea. So I did not know that about you. I would not have seen you as that. I mean, I see you up on the stage. You're a frequent a speaker. You're in real estate. You're networking all the time.
Yeah.
Okay. So, do you find that a challenge?
So public speaking has been a challenge. It's something I've had to work on a lot. The decision to take the executive MBA was part of that journey and made a huge difference. The executive MBA wasn't so much the academic side that I took away from it. It was much more how to deal with my introverted side in a leadership role. It's been a journey, but I do enjoy being up on stage now, when that was certainly not the case a decade ago.
What do you think changed?
It's understanding who you are, and not trying to be somebody that you're not. And I think once you can really realize who you are, what you enjoy, then you can build around that. And it doesn't happen overnight. It is a journey. Takes work. That was the light bulb moment for me. Was be yourself. Play to your strengths. Don't try and be somebody that you're not.
Yeah, that's really important. Be authentic. I was reading something actually only this morning at breakfast, and I can't recall the author who was being quoted in this article, but it's it's exactly what you've said. It's an inner journey, all right? And we have to believe in ourselves first, okay? And be authentic, play to your strengths, which is difficult since we're educated to please others. Please parents, please teachers, please partners, please our organizations, please whatever, okay, society. And even if we look at social media, allowing ourselves to be bombarded by maybe a strange sense of what society is. And that can give us some insecurities because we're trying to please other people. And if we're not like that, then that's very, very hard.
Yeah.
You let that go. You let that go, and you are you.
And that's often the phrase that's used is let go.
Let go, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that's hard. Okay, if people want to get hold of you, what's the best way of finding you?
So I am active on LinkedIn, so that's definitely one option. You can go to our company website. My email address will be available on there.
Okay.
I'm very open to any contact, but yeah, LinkedIn or email.
Okay. All right, listeners, I'll put all of that stuff in the show notes, so you don't have to take notes or remember. Just read the show notes, and the connections to Savills and your LinkedIn profile will be there. Now, I wrote this book called Business as Unusual, so here's my signature question. What's the most unusual experience you've ever had in business so far?
Right. This goes to pre-Vietnam. We were valuing a portfolio for a central London landlord. And part of that portfolio was properties in Chinatown. And we entered these Chinese restaurants and went to the bowels of Chinatown, literally. And I remember going down and seeing these eels swimming around in buckets of water in the basement. And as a relatively recent graduate, learning the valuation trade, it was not necessarily what you would expect. So that was one interesting experience within my professional career. I think what I've really enjoyed being surprised by is the leadership skills that can come out of Vietnamese, and dare I say it, Vietnamese women in particular, and how powerful these leaders can be. And I think that's reflected in the listed companies here in Vietnam, but we see it every day in our own business, and we have some incredible female leaders who have really thrived, and it's been an absolute joy to see. So yeah, that's been fantastic.
Okay, so that's the most unusual experiences you've had in business. Let's forget about business. Let's talk about life in general. Anything unusual happened to you?
So I remember off the back of one of my motorbike tours of the north of Vietnam, which I thoroughly enjoyed for many years. Haven't done since I've had a family, but wonderful experiences. There's nothing to beat a snake restaurant outside Hanoi for being an unusual experience. And literally eating every part of a snake, cooked in all kinds of different ways, is something that sticks in the mind. as part of that journey in the north of Vietnam.
Okay, so last question. What's one question that you wish that I should have asked you, but I didn't? And asking yourself the question now, how would you answer it?
What would be one had I prepared? Maybe skip that one for the moment. Sorry.
Okay. Let me do a different last question because we'll have to edit that one.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think Vietnam's going to look like in the next 5 to 10 years?
It will be very, very different from an infrastructure perspective. The reason I say that with confidence is that it's a must. The Vietnam government has to invest in the infrastructure space. So that's a physical, a visual thing that you'll see. I really believe in the Vietnamese people, and I've alluded to it several times already. But I think you'll see Vietnamese people really on the global scale that we've not maybe seen to date. And I think those leaders that I've spoken about earlier, Vietnamese leaders, will be really thriving on a global basis.
So thanks for that. Let's end on that note. You know, Vietnam, there's a lot more to come. You ain't seen nothing yet. It's on the up and up, so it's a place to come and visit. So on that note, thanks very much, Neil. Thanks for joining us today. As I said, look forward to seeing you listeners again on this episode. Thank you for listening in. All Neil's contact details will be in the show notes, and see you again next time.